spot where the Jordan River parted and allowed the Israelites to walk through miraculously into the land of milk and honey. So, the Great Recession of 2008 came at the end of some pretty fat years in 2005, 6, and 7. Anybody disagree? No. Okay. During that period of time, money was easy, things were happening. We spent like drunken sailors. Anybody disagree? And then things changed. We were, the average promotional products company in our industry is about $250,000 per year, $350,000 per year in volume. We were doing $6.5 million. We're in the top 1% in sales in the United States. We're the largest promotional products company in the Southwest. And we were pretty comfortable. Then all of a sudden we saw our sales tank 35% down to $4.5 million. Our overhead was $106,000 a month. We cut our overhead down to $75,000, roughly 35%. So we could see that things were going to be touch and go. And in December of 2009, when we were coming back from Maui, where we have a contract with Kimber Sports out of Chicago to take care of all the concessions at the Maui Invitational Tournament for about 14 years. We were coming back, we got that problem taken care of, and I was able to then focus on 2010. And I was sick to my stomach realizing that I didn't know where we were going to be. On that plane, God said to me, Bert, you're a numbers guy. Do the numbers. Stop worrying. Do the numbers. Take a look at it. So I spent about 3 weeks and over 200 spreadsheets going back salesperson by salesperson, account by account for 15 years and figuring out where our sales were at that time. I knew what each salesperson's percentage of gross margin was, and we could develop some projections. And if we came in 2010 at the same sales that we had in 2009, we would be gone in June of 2010. Period. We settled in January 1, January 2 of 2010. I pulled all the employees together and I told them what was going on. And I said, however, God has indicated to me how we can put this thing out. If you want to go along with it. So we engaged in a plan. It involved changing the commission structure and dropping the salespeople's commission structure by 2.5%. At the end of a year, our sales had gone up 19%. The salespeople had sold business at a higher gross margin, making up the 2.5% that they had lost. And they made more money last year. This year, we're even. And we're still in a struggle because the expenses that are being levied upon us by our wonderful government, city, state, federal, county, make it extremely difficult. I'm a numbers guy, as many of you are, and that causes me some concern. However, I'd like to tell you why I'm not as concerned with a story. And Dean blew the punchline, but some of you already know it. Many of you already know this story anyway. Wednesday, April the 8th, 1981, that was 30 years ago last April, I was on my way to a 9:30 appointment about 4 blocks up the street from Broadway, where our office was located, next door to the Kon-Tiki restaurant in that little 2-story, it used to be called the Sherwood Tower, Sherwood Palace, Sherwood something or other executive thing. And as I gathered the customer folder that looked something like this for Safari Club, I walked down the stairs at 9:15 and through the 2 doors at the patio Kon-Tiki restaurant, and our little office complex is like a mini complex there. I walked through the door like this, and I was stopped right in the threshold with fear. It was a distinct, livid fear, and I thought something was going to fall on my head, and I turned like this, and nothing there, and somebody was going to stab me in the back, and nothing was there, and it was just emanating everywhere. It was like a zzz, like this. And I could see that there was nobody around, but this thing was so real, I couldn't believe it. So I crept forward toward Kon-Tiki, and I looked down the alleyway there was no one there. I looked down this way, nobody out that way. I thought, this is so strange. So I gathered myself together and I walked toward the edge of the parking lot, and I stood with my feet on the corner. You can balance your toes, you know. And I thought, this is so strange. Up to the left of me is the Hungry Fox. To the right was the old Social Security building. And I couldn't see anybody in the parking lot, nothing. And yet this feeling was still humming. And I thought, my goodness, what in the world? My car was parked straight ahead. It was a '64 Corvette convertible that I had restored to mint condition. Drove it in that morning. The top was down. So I thought, that's really strange. Then all of a sudden, the started coming from this area over here. Now I'm standing on the curb, okay? And my car is here. Broadway is out there. My car is in the outer row, and this hum was coming from this area. So I thought, oh, that's strange. And then very slowly, I saw a car begin to move from this direction, maybe about 100 yards away. And it was going maybe 1 or 2 miles an hour. I thought, that's the only thing that's moving. And that's where the feeling is coming from. So I watched it move, and I could see that there were 3 individuals in that vehicle, 1 in the back seat and 2 in the front seat. The guy in the back seat had his arms over the front seat, and he was like this, pointing. He was pointing in this direction, you know. And I thought, they're going to steal my car. The top's down. It's in mint condition. It's very stealable. Thank you, God. And so I thought, this is the middle of the day. There's 9:15, traffic on Broadway. I'm just going to walk toward my car, bouncing my short little body as high as I could over those top roofs of the cars, and trying to get their attention. As soon as they saw me, they would say, there's the owner of the vehicle, it's Scram. So as I walked toward my car, keeping my eye on that vehicle going, I had to walk very slow because they were going very slow, as I said, 1 or 2 miles an hour. I timed myself, and as I hit the left front fender, I drug my hand on the fender of the Vet, and a shock of adrenaline goes through my head, and I was just, you know, I was really, really alert. I walked over to the door, and I fumbled the keys because they were still about where Jeff is right now. And I'm watching like this. The guy in the back seat is still pointing in this direction. The 2 other guys are leaning in toward him, and nobody is saying, oh, there's the guy. There's the guy. You know, he's on to us. Let's boogie. And I thought, well, they're not after my car. What in the world are they doing? So I stalled here with my keys until the car came right about to here. And no more than 5 feet away, the driver turned and looked at me like this. And we had eye contact for maybe 2 seconds. And he had the evilest set of eyes I've ever seen. I used to collect bad debts at Sears and Montgomery Ward. I used to repossess things. I used to deal with a lot of bad people, and they're out there. Skip knows, Dean knows very, very well. You do too. You probably encountered them. Anyway, two seconds of eye contact. He goes driving on slowly. I get in my car, and I collapse in the seat, and I said, thank you, Lord. Whew. I just escaped something. I don't know what it was. And normally I would back my car out this way and go that way. And something said, and I laid the customer folder in the passenger seat. Something said, go the other way. So I backed out in behind the car, which by this time was about 30 or 40 feet up ahead, and they had stopped. So I'm twiddling my thumbs, figuratively speaking, behind the trunk of this car. Something said, write down the license number and the description. So, on the back of the folder, which was face down, I just wrote the information down. They went on ahead, still pointing and gesturing in the corner. There was a cutout there, so I came this way, did a 180, and I was stopped at the stoplight at Swan and Broadway when their car zoomed in front of me. No big deal. Went about my business. Sometime later, I had been working on the Arizona Lottery account for 3 different ad agencies, putting together campaigns for them around their themes for promotional products. So you don't know that what we do is we put logos on anything. And I had been working till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, getting a few hours sleep, going back in again. So I was in the office around 6. And Rosemary came in, my secretary, and she said, well, what do you think about the big excitement? I said, what excitement? She said, I was interviewed by 3 different people when I pulled into the parking lot and came up here. You don't know about the robbery? I said, what robbery? She says, the biggest cash bank robbery in the history of the United States down at the First Interstate Bank down at the corner. Occurred yesterday morning. Well, I hadn't seen the newspaper. I had been like working 20 hours a day, and I didn't know that anything had gone on. So I said, well, okay, that's great. That afternoon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I went down to that bank to cash a check because Thursday afternoon was special at our family because that was the time that we, as a family, Ann and I, were the leaders of Tucson Young Life staff. We were unpaid lay staff people. And we had leadership at our house that night, and we always made big pots of chili for the 25 college leaders that came and stayed with us. And I'm standing there in the line. I hate lines. How many love lines? How many hate lines? So I said, oh my gosh, the place was filled with people with little spiral notebooks and pens, and they were talking to everybody. And I said, oh my gosh, that bank robbery, that's right. And then at that time, there was a marketing guy. There was a Ford commercial going on with the light bulbs that Ford has a better idea and the light bulb clicks on. That light bulb clicked on for me and I said, I know who did that job. Now I don't know when it was, but I'll bet those guys were the ones, and I'll bet that's the reason why God made me so alert. So I went back to Rosemary and I said, I know who pulled that job, but I don't know when it was, how long ago it was. It could have been 6 months ago or 6 days ago. I just didn't know. So we started, so I called, I had to go to Young Life. I called after Young Life about 10:30 that night. I called the FBI office, got a hold of Dean, and I said, I might have something for you, I don't know. I came in the next morning very early and they were there to meet me. They came up to the office and we started going through everything, and we finally found the notebook that had the thing on it. They asked me to leave my own office, which was not very big anyway. It was like, very small. And then they started scurrying in and out of my office with making phone calls and going, and next thing you know, they've got a composite artist and a sketch people coming in and out, and